Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything is good. I hope everything is well at your end. Guys, yesterday, so I'm still a bit under the weather. So I'm sorry if I sound a bit like drowsy. I'm on antibiotics for my throat, and I am in a bit of pain right now. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about yesterday's fight and Conor McGregor, his fight with Dustin Poirier. A lot of people have been talking about it. Guys, let's give you a little backstory. I'm not a huge UFC fan. I've never been a huge UFC fan. I've never really been into the sport like that. But when Conor McGregor came along, he was a character. I used to love his trash talk, even though a lot of people don't really like people that trash talk like that. I used to love it, and I got drawn into the UFC. I don't watch the UFC like that, but when McGregor's fighting, I definitely have an interest. He lures you in, one of the best self-promoters ever, you know, across all combat sport, boxing as well. I think he's brilliant. I think the way he promotes, I do think sometimes he makes himself look bad, but I don't really think I think sometimes the person that we see on camera is an act. I don't think that's the person he is in real life. I actually think he's quite a humble, good guy. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Because a lot of people now are questioning that he's not even humble. He's not, he's out of order, some of the stuff that he said to Poirier. But yeah, he early on in his career was excelling, doing very well. He was killing it, he's taken UFC to different heights. I feel like he's transcended the sport where his events are so big and he's kind of getting paid huge amount of money, which a lot of UFC fighters have complained about in the past, that they don't get paid a lot. Conor McGregor took the sport to another level. He's got a huge loyal fan base. He's a huge star. He's a superstar. For me, one of the biggest stars in sport today. A huge name, a huge star, transcended the UFC without question. I don't think they've had a star that big before, and with that kind of pulling power, he's definitely taken the sport to another level. Early on he was winning fights. We lost. He came back against Diaz, and you could see that hunger, that desire, that wanting to fight. But of recent years, McGregor's been on the slide. He's been taking a lot of losses. I can't even remember the last time he won. I think the last time he won was against Donald Cerrone, and that was a guy that was probably past his best. So McGregor of recent years, you can clearly see his career's on the slide. He's losing a lot of fights. The hunger, people questioning his hunger, people questioning his desire. I love Conor McGregor. I used to love, honestly, I still do. I'm still massive fan of McGregor. I think what he's done, and the fact that anyone that's able to lure you into something that you're not interested in, they have something about themselves. And Conor McGregor definitely had something about him. He lured a lot of people into the sport that weren't fans of the sport. I'm still not a fan of UFC. I think it's quite gruesome. I think it's a very hard sport. Look at the injury that Conor McGregor had last night. It's just a very gruesome, hard to watch sport. Terence Crawford once said these guys get broken toes, broken fingers, and they don't even get paid that much compared to boxers. And he was talking about how hard it is. UFC is a very, very hard sport. It's a very, very grueling sport. Very, very grueling, and it's not the kind of sport where once you're past your best or you lose hunger, it's not the type of sport that you need to be in. For me, Conor McGregor's been great for the UFC. He's done great things. He's been a great fighter. I think people forget, but here's the thing: when you start losing, people forget what you've done in the past. You're only as good as your last performance, and McGregor's last performances haven't been great, or 2 stoppage losses. Now, I know they're going to probably mark it towards a 4th fight because of the way that fight ended. And, McGregor was saying it was a doctor stoppage. McGregor's normally humble in defeat and very, very humble. He normally says, gives the opponent a lot of respect. Yesterday, we didn't see that. Are we reaching a place with Conor McGregor where he's kind of cracking a little bit because he can't do what he once could? Poirier seems to be at the peak of his powers, and McGregor seems to be not at the peak of his powers. It looks like Conor McGregor is on the slide. big time. And I just don't know how. Listen, I know a lot of people will say the ankle broke, fair enough. But even prior to that, McGregor was, wasn't winning the fight. Poirier was kind of dominating. He was on top. The second fight, Poirier was on top. This is a guy, Poirier looks good as well. Like, he looks physically strong. He looks like he's in his prime. Whereas Conor McGregor doesn't look the same Conor McGregor. He doesn't look as confident as he used to when it was early on in his career. Whereas Poirier looks confident. He doesn't look like he's going to get beat by McGregor. That's not to say someone else can't beat Poirier. I'm pretty sure they can. But he just doesn't look like he's going to get beat by McGregor, if you see what I mean. So, I don't know. I don't know where McGregor goes from here, to be honest with you. Personally, I think it might be time for him to retire. He's achieved a lot in the sport. Like I said, he's transcended the sport. What more is there for someone like Conor McGregor to do and achieve? I don't think there is. I think he's done it all. I think he's done it all, and I don't think he's going to be able to do any more. I don't think he's going to be able to avenge. See, you're not just in the sport to lose. Like, Conor McGregor's got a lot of money. He's not just in the sport to go in there and lose. I just don't think he can beat Poirier anymore. I think he's lost that hunger, that desire. And even if he has got that hunger and desire, I'm not sure his body can do it anymore. And that's even worse. You may have the hunger and desire. It reminds me a little bit about David Haye. David Haye's body started falling apart. And McGregor might be going down the same route because he just doesn't seem like he's got it anymore. And, that fight yesterday, that was a gruesome injury. That was a horrible injury. His leg his ankle just snapped in half. That was horrible to watch. We see that in UFC a lot. It's just horrible to watch. Horrible to watch. When his leg, he clearly was in a lot of pain, went down, and that's it. And, doctor, it was a horrible injury. Horrible injury. And you could clearly see that Conor McGregor is frustrated at the end. He's frustrated because I feel like you're trying to do something, but you just can't do it anymore. You just can't do it anymore. Just can't. Your body's not allowing you to do it anymore. And that's what happens. As you get older, your bones get weak. You get brittle. They start breaking like that. And like I said, UFC is a very hard game. It's a very, very hard game. It's a very brutal game. And this isn't an easy game, UFC. UFC is a very, very tough game. These guys are warriors, gladiators that go in there. It's a very, very tough sport. Very tough sport. And that was, McGregor at the end seemed really frustrated, seemed really upset. But for me, McGregor's the type where he's a competitor. He's gonna keep wanting to go and prove the wrong. He's gonna want to fight Poirier again and beat him. I just don't think he can do it. I just don't think he's got it in him anymore. I think his time in the sun is gone. And it's sad because UFC are gonna, once McGregor's gone, UFC is gonna hit UFC massively because the kind of numbers that guy does, the pulling power, the trash talk, the entertainer he was. But I feel like that's all he is now. He's no longer a fighter, he's an entertainer. He's a fighter in terms of he's showing heart. He's showing heart, but he hasn't got it anymore. He hasn't got it anymore to beat someone like Poirier, who's at the top of his game. Poirier is a top fighter. He looks confident. He's in a great place. And I just don't see how Conor McGregor beats him. And a lot of people were saying McGregor's going to win. McGregor's going to avenge the loss. And I didn't really think McGregor would win. I thought Poirier would win again. Just because I can see that Poirier, from a mental standpoint, he's in a great place. I don't think McGregor's in a great place. I think he's kind of, because of the competitor that he is, he's trying to force himself, to do it and force himself to prove people wrong. But I just don't think he can do it. I think he's kind of... McGregor might go down the route of Roy Jones. And I'm not saying he was as good as Roy was as a boxer in his sport. But he might be going down that road where Roy lost to a lot of guys that he shouldn't have done. And listen, even if McGregor wasn't near his best, this Poirier could beat him. Poirier's in a great place. Poirier's in a great place, but I just think that you can clearly see that McGregor's not the same McGregor. Even when, you know, early on in his career, when you look at the way he used to fight, he was very confident. He was, you know, he had that buzz about him. He had that energy. I just don't think he's got that anymore. I feel like he's an entertainer now. He's selling fights, and you know, he's trying to get under guys' skins. But when he goes inside to that octagon, anyone that's half decent, I just don't think he can pull the trigger. And it's not even that. It's like before, when he used to hit guys, it used to hurt. They used to fall over, fall apart. Whereas now it's not happening anymore for him. Not happening for him anymore. You know, I remember when he hit Eddie Alvarez. You know, Jose Aldo. You know, he knocked those guys out. But I just feel like those days are gone. Those days are well behind him. You know, Conor McGregor was at his peak, and he was, you know, for a short period of time at the top, he was doing very well. But then I think, you know, after the Mayweather's fight, and, you know, I think he became, because of how big he became, I think he became more of a businessman and became a huge star, you know, and kind of maybe neglected the fighting side of it. He was inactive for a very long period of time as well. That don't help. That don't help, because a lot of these guys in the UFC, they don't have the name that McGregor has. They have to work their way to the top. Whereas McGregor kind of had a huge name, and he started making a lot of money from other places. You know, whiskey, fighting Mayweather. Whereas a lot of these guys are very hungry, and they're still hungry because they don't have the money. They don't have the star power that Conor McGregor has. Dustin Poirier didn't have the opportunity like McGregor. He didn't have the star power of McGregor. So he needs to fight guys like McGregor to build his own name. And now look, he's a star in his own right. He won't ever be as big as McGregor, but he's a star now. And he's benefited from McGregor's name. So that's why these guys are hungry, because they don't have the money that McGregor has. They don't have the opportunities outside the ring or outside the octagon that McGregor has. Maybe now Poirier might, but prior he didn't. This is why they always stay hungry, because they've got to prove a point. They want to get in the position that McGregor's in. You know, so that's why they're always hungry. That's my take, man. I think it's sad, but I think it might be time for Conor McGregor to probably call it a day. And you know, it's going to take him a long time to heal up from this injury. That was a gruesome injury. So he's got some healing healing to do. And then let's see what Conor McGregor does, man. Let's see if Conor McGregor comes back. Let's see if Conor McGregor will fight again. Let's see. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think he should do. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.